All right, so we're going to start off with what I probably should have included in the last one, which was how do you do multiple graphs? Or can you just add more inputs in and process multiple graphs? The great answer is yes, and in fact, incredibly easily. This particular node or component is built so that you can just keep plugging in the information you want, and it'll just start stacking the graphs in the model space. So if I want dry bulb temperature, I also want wind speed, it just moves that graph down below. If I want, well, wind direction.
It took out my.
It took out yours?
It took my
oh,
connection.
Yeah, that's, maybe I forgot to introduce this to you guys before.
Oh.
Yeah, guys, heads up. I suppose I forgot to introduce this to you before, but how do you add input where you thank you, I'm getting there. How do you add an input when it's designed to only take one? Okay, so sometimes it will allow you to put multiples into one input. Other times it tries to force you to only have one unless you manually override it to have more than one. So we have to do that here. Wind speed, if we want to put that on, we have to hold shift, and you'll see that it turns green with a little plus at the top. And then you can drop it on to add it on. Yes?
For Honeybee, it does 3D, right? Or does Ladybug do 3D?
Just Ladybug.
Just Ladybug?
Yeah, Ladybug does it 2D and 3D. Okay, guys. So for this exercise, I don't want to process too much information. So I put in total sky cover. So I don't want to process a lot of information. So for right now, I'm just going to use the dry bulb temperature. So I'm going to disconnect these other ones that I added on. And let's look at how do I make it look the way I want it to look, right? Because a lot of this course is going to have to do with presenting the information you're given, right? It's not just throwing something down on the sheet because that's what a program actually gave you. Okay, we're going to modify this stuff to suit our needs, which is essential in our industry. So we're going to use these things right here called conditional statements and legend par. So legend par is going to allow us to modify the colorization of the chart, or at least the way I'm going to show you. That's how it's going to do. How it's going to process. The other one, conditional statement, is going to allow us to demarcate or eliminate certain information that we want to show, not just how we want to show it. So let's start with legend par. And if you go into, let me pull this aside so you can actually see the menus. If you go into Ladybug and where was it? Was it in here? There it is. Ladybug legend parameters. Let me label these for you. Okay. All right, so legend parameters. This part, actually, I think I misspoke. Conditional statement will allow us to demarcate which information to show, but legend par will also allow us to demarcate different information to show as well by using low bound and high bound. So it'll basically allow us to modify what the boundaries are of the information that's being processed. I know that's a lot for you to process right now, but I'll show you what it looks like. So First and foremost, let's look at color. Okay, so color in Grasshopper is a little bit different than you would imagine in, say, Rhino, right? With Rhino, you pick a layer, and that layer gets an actual color, and then and I put this in quotes, physical object that you've modeled gets colored as that layer, right? So in Grasshopper, colorization is done by overlaying a mesh onto the geometry that you've generated. So for us, we are going to override custom colors, and we're going to plug that into legend par, and then the colorization is actually being output on this mesh. It's a graph mesh. Okay. I'm not going to go too far into the construction of meshes right now because we don't need to know. But just know that it's a mesh, not a surface. Okay. So here's the cool part I think that you'll like is that under params and under input, we have this one called gradient. Gradient, if you look at the way it's constructed, has this thing on the left. So T is basically going to allow you to create the density or resolution of the gradient between your boundaries, and L is your lower limit, L0, and L1 is your upper limit. And that means of these inputs, my lower limit demarcation for colorization is what, and my upper limit demarcation for colorization is what. For us, because we want to change the colorization of everything in this model, we're going to leave it as default, right? So 0 to 1, and that's basically a domain. Okay, so we'll talk more about domains too in the construction phase later on. But what you do need to know right now is that we're going to change the parameter. That's your resolution. How frequently are you going to process this information into a new color? So you're probably not going to understand much about this yet, but we're going to go under sets and sequence, and we're going to create a series. And we're going to create a series of numbers that are going to go to a value of 0.1. So that series of numbers that comes out is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so those are your subdivisions. The reason we have that many subdivisions is because we have that many subdivisions here, simply put. That's a manual override. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 11 actually. I think there's 11 there. So we plug that in. This is going to look funny because it's still pink, but we plug that into custom colors. Sorry, if you missed that, series goes into T. And then legend par obviously gets plugged into legend par, as some of you have already figured out. So now that information is being read as all pink colors, which really isn't easy to read, but we can change how it's read. If I wanted to, I could right-click it and change some of the presets. So if you go to this top left corner, this little color wheel, right-click that and go to your presets. And you can change it to really anything. This one was closer to what it was before, except it's a little inversed now. Yes, sir. Oh. It's just a little bit inverse. So if we wanted to change the colors, we could. But let's start with something that's a little simpler. So add current gradient. Let me go back, actually. Control Z will bring you back to this. I'm going to disconnect this. And I'm going to add the gradient of the current model. So if I right click and I go to presets and I add current gradient, what do I need to do? Might be bad. All right, well, mine borrowed the properties perfectly fine when I did it. I don't know what I'm getting hung up on, but this can be modified. So let's custom modify one. These dots, you can make it more of a certain color or less of a certain color. Sorry, I disconnected that from you. So you can make it more of a certain color or less of a certain color, but for us, because we have so much information that we're trying to process, we actually need more than just two colors. So I'm going to move these to the extremes and then add what am I missing? I forget the hotkey now. I'm forgetting the hotkey. All right, well, hang tight, guys. But anyway, if you want to change the color, and let's start with that, and then I'll remember what the hotkey is for that. Is that what it was? On that? Oh, yeah, there you go. Okay, thank you. Good fix. All right. There's a hotkey for it that I was trying to recall. I just forget what it was. Anyway, so if you add it, you just click on this, I guess, and pull it in. What I've been doing to get rid of them is you just pull it off to the side, and that'll get rid of it. You can pull one off from the side that way and pull it on. There was a way to do it from out here. I forget what it was. Anyway, so if you want to change the color, you just double click on the node, or well, double click on it out here anyway. What the heck? I'm crashing. Okay, I've got an error here. Let me troubleshoot this, guys. I don't know what's going on.